the blue in that section. But if I, change that up, I hit X on my keyboard and go to white, and I'm going to white that in. You will see that I've suddenly painted in blue into that area. So, and then I'm just going to go Control-Alt-Z to get back, because we don't want to do that. That was a, not fun idea. You can do color corrections and stuff like that on these channels too, but seeing as we're all about saving the pixels, I much rather don't do it here.
It's a very destructive way of correcting things.
Yep. So
generally, you kind of the rule is to read out of your channels, but never write to them.
Yeah. So where were we? All right. So I'm going to just do a selection right now, and I've just made an all marquee selection, and I'm actually going to go select and save selection. I'm going to give it a name. It can be Mark for marquee. Cool. And go OK. And you can see down here, it's actually saved that into my channels section. So channels are like a place where you can select stuff, and then the idea is that you can select something, save it, and then you can always recall that selection. So by going, and I'm going to deselect, so I'm going to go Control deselect. So I'm just going to go select, load selection, and there's my Mark one there, and there we go, and it's loading it straight off this channel here. And we now have our little marching ants back.
A shortcut for doing this is to actually control and click on the alpha channel itself.
That's right. Yep. So I'm going.
And it will actually load that up.
Ah, there we go. I didn't know that. Fantastic. This is why I like working with other people from other genres, because they all know different stuff, and when they combine it together, it makes awesome. Okay. So okay. So how we can use this to our advantage is totally awesome and cool, because I don't know, everyone knows that kind of bad Photoshop mistake where you will go, and I'm just gonna let me think. I'm going to put this onto a new background, so I'm just gonna layer new. There is a shortcut for this that I should be using. Shift Control N. There we go. And okay, cool. And then I'm just going to gradient fill that with something. I won't fill it with black, so you can see. All right, I'm going to fill it with red, and I'm going to put that behind. All right. So when I create a mask, and I try and trace around the hair, you'll end up with this awful flat thing. And no matter how often you try, you'll never get that precision that you really want to have. And I'll show you. You'll cut off those little extra bits of hair. It'll look unnatural. It'll look stupid. And that's the first thing people often come to me about with Photoshop is, how do I cut out hair? So this is how I do it. You need, generally, to do this right, you'll need kind of a lot of contrast between the background and an opposing color, I guess, to change it. This is why I chose this image. So you can see here in my red channel, we've got a lot of grays. There's not a lot of contrast between the background and the hair. We'll go green. That seems to have a lot, but the one I'm really interested in is the blue, because the blue's quite bright and there's a lot of difference between the two. So I can create a copy of that. I want to create a copy of that alpha channel, because if I work on that channel, as we saw before, it'll edit it, and you'll screw up your whole photo, and you'll secretly hate yourself for a long time, as I found out when I did an entire selection and realized that I hadn't copied my channel. So you grab that, yes, and it was one that took ages, and I was really sad, and that was, half an hour out of my workflow that I needed back. So drag it down, we have our new little thing down here, and there we go, we have blue copy. So the first thing I tend to do with that is this is where we can destroy this channel, and we can destroy the pixels. So I'm just going to go Control M on my keyboard, which you can normally find image, adjustments, curves. We can't use layers on our channels. And all I'm going to do is kind of bump up that contrast a bit. I'm going to kind of make sure there's a bit of definition, and see how it's not too blocky. Hang on, I'll show you what. Oh, you probably won't be able to see on the live stream, but that's going to be too blocky because you won't be able to see the edges. I'll zoom in, or you will be able to see the edges, but it'll create an awful steppy sort of situation, like a GIF. So
Yeah.
it'll look like a GIF. We don't want to make it look like a GIF. So I still want to keep a little bit of detail in there. And then I'm just going to go OK. So now all I need to do is grab my dodge and burn or my brushes on lighten and darken. So to change there's a little bit of debate between dodge and burn and using your brush on lighten or darken. In this instance, I don't think it matters. So
they pretty much achieve the same goal.
They achieve the same goal. So I prefer dodge and burn just because it's what I'm used to. So using the dodge tool, I'm just going to touch it lightly around the edges. You can't actually see at the moment on the live stream that that's taking out some of that kind of, I want to make this channel basically pure black and white is the goal, is the end game. So all I'm doing is using that, and I can be pretty rough. I don't have to be too, with the dodge and burn, you can get relatively close to the edges and not lose anything. So is this how you generally do it, Matt? Like, do you do the same sort of thing in with your gaming and that sort of thing? Or?
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly the same deal. So
exactly the same. Like
yep.
either that or painting it from hand, which takes a very long time.
Yeah.
This is pretty much just a shortcut.
Yep. Yep.
And the end result is the same sort of like hand-painted alpha channel. So.
Yep. Yep. So all I tend to do is just quickly cut around, like I'd quickly go around the edges with that dodge, and you will lose a little bit of that hair detail, but you won't lose heaps of it. And I'm doing it pretty quickly. Is that screwing up on the live stream? I can't actually see it, but...
we could see when you went down into the kind of darker areas.
Okay.
So sort of can see what's going on.
Doing this as quickly as possible so that you can... There we go. Is that better?
Yeah.
Cool. And I tend to just, go around the edges really quickly. That's why this image rules, because it's so easy to use the alpha channels on. Okay. So I've created kind of an outline. I'm just going to get a bigger brush now and using my brackets on the keyboard, like the square brackets, I don't know what they're called.
Yep, square brackets.
Square brackets, woo! Okay, highly technical.
Square brackets is for brush size.
Yeah, so you can go down with your brush size really quickly. Cool, and now you'll see that I'm pretty much set. I've got, I've got the, white as the background, except the only problem I've got here is that we've got the grey tones in the middle here. So when I make a selection, it'll literally, so it's control-click on the layer. It's not making the right kind of, selection, whereas the background's pretty clean. Channels, back to channels. Right. Cool. And Command-D to get rid of that. Cool. So I can also use my lassos and all of that sort of jazz here. So just to get out that little spot up there, I've just lassoed. So any of your selections work here as well, and you can use that to get rid of big bits of stuff. And you can then use your brush, and I'm just going to take it off darken mode as well. So you brush on black, white, or any greys. Greys basically represent opacity, so how much of that is showing through. And this is why channels are great, because it lets you kind of change those.
It essentially lets you gives you a better environment for painting layer masks and then saving them and like not having them to be linked to a particular layer.
Yeah. Cool. So now all I'm doing is I'm just using the burn tool, and I use Shift-O on my keyboard to scroll through the menu on the side. And I'm burning in that area and being really careful not to burn too much around the edges, because I don't want it to ruin my, those greys and on the edges and the anti-aliasing and all of that sort of fun stuff. Is that the right way to say it? I don't know. I've always read this stuff on screen, so I never know exactly how the stuff's said. Cool. There we go. And I want to make all of the bits that I don't want to be, I want to make it true black. So now it was white that gives and black that takes away, isn't it?
Yep.
Cool. So I think my mask is actually around the wrong way at the moment, but my channel's around the wrong way, as in my white should be black and my black should be white, I believe, at the moment.
Gives us the opportunity to teach another awesome shortcut.
Yeah, that's it. Another amazing, great shortcut. We love shortcuts. Okay, so all the time using my controls pluses and controls minuses just to get that, you know, to zoom in nice and quickly. Cool, so as we can see, oh no, hang on, wait, I lied. Wait a minute. I'm going to use my brush and come into here. So not all of your images are going to be this easy either to do this on.
This is a very forgiving image.
This is a forgiving image. I chose this because it's nice and quick. But you may have to do this in a few different layers and levels, and I may show that actually at the end of, you know, what's it called? You know, at the end. Now,
the freeform section?
That's it. Now, just before I do anything, I'm just going to check my channel. And this is what I'm looking for, is something to come up in the background. So I've just hit Control M on my keyboard, brought up the curves, and see how I've now got, like when I pull the middle section down on the curves, I've now got things appearing telling me where stuff is. Then I don't want that because it's going to make my mask really messy. So all I'm doing now is using curves to, you know, just to check. I don't actually want to keep that, so I'm going to go cancel. And now that I vaguely know where my ruined places are, where my places of, you know, shame and stuff, I used the wrong tool there. I'm just going to quickly, there was some up in the corner here, there's some down here, just check again. Where else was it? Oh yeah, near her head, near her arm, so just there. Okay. That'll be fine. Okay, cool. So, when I come back in here, you'll notice that, oh, I'm going to go, actually, Control click onto that layer. I'm going to come into layers. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to hit delete. Oh, no, my layer wasn't around the wrong way. I get confuzzled. So there we go. We have like a really good, clean, or relatively clean cutout. I mean, there's still bits and pieces that are not perfect, but because there is that blue blowback from the backdrop. But it's much better than what it would have been if we had gone the other way. I tend to just fix...
Still has some detail in the outline of the hair.
Yeah, and you can use your mask now to come back in and you know, change and fix all that sort of stuff. You can use a curves layer. Actually, I'll show you how I quickly get rid of that. If it's in the hair, anyway, I make a group. I drag that mask onto my group, and then I put that image into there. So that basically now that group is affecting all of the layers that are going to be in there. I just go Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Hue Saturation. I go OK. And I just look at the edges of that hair and just check what it's doing and whether it's desaturating. And then I would also use probably another mask. You know, I'd just hit E on my keyboard and you know, bring back in the rest of it to erase back that sort of channel, if that makes sense. That was done very quickly, but it was, if you rewatch the video later on YouTube, you'll be able to see and kind of get that idea. So, and the cool part about that is that I can now, if I want to load that selection again, and you might find yourself loading that selection over and over and over again, I've got it here, and I can just reselect something. So I think that's handy. I like that a lot. What do you think, Matt?
I think that's pretty much exactly the same way I use it.
Yay!
The only difference being that instead of just using them for selections, you can create an alpha channel the exact same way.
Yes.
And because that alpha channel is now there, and if you saved this as a TGA now, all of that area where there is orange that we had cut out in the alpha channel, that would be transparent in the TGA.
Yeah. Super handy.
So if we wanted to make a sprite of Cass and have her running around on top of the background, that's the way we would do it, and then we would just save that out as a TGA.
Yeah, that's it. So, and these are super flexible. The only problem you may run into, and I'm going to switch to an image that was a little bit harder to deal with. Actually, maybe it wasn't. Yeah, it was. So you can see here his skin is sort of telling a different story to what, and we've got that, you know, when I go through my alpha channels, I've got that bright bit of hair at the back. I've got, well, his skin down here is kind of merging with the background. So you can use, for example, the red channel seems to have more contrast between the backdrop, or easier to work with contrast between the backdrop and such.
And this changes from image to image,
Yeah,
so you have to find whichever channel has the most contrast for the part of the image that you're actually working on.
Yeah,